For my passion project, I wanted to do something that involved art and music, both being a big part of my life. As a result, I started brainstorming about what I would do about it. During my brainstorming, I did not think of art and music right away, making it overlooked. I tried looking for a complicated topic, one that make my work the best it could be. I later realized, discussing with friends, that their ideas seemed so simple. Looking back now, I realize that I did completely overlook art and music. And because art and music have been with me forever, I decided I would do my try time with this topic. My research, although it played a huge part in this project, the process made all the difference. At first, I only had a basic driving question, which was, how can art enhance critical thinking? My question later transformed through feedback to, how can SAS 7th graders enhance their critical thinking skills using the inspiring effects of art and music? I had realized that my question lacked specifics and detail of what exactly I was researching. I think after I had rewritten my driving question, I knew exactly what I was researching. However, I think it did create a struggle because it was so specific. My research started becoming harder as I could not find many sources. An example of this is when the class was asked to research their driving question on the library website. I then realized I had to break my question down. My original question, on the other hand, provided no specific words that would help me narrowing down my research. Therefore, researching would have been a breeze. But despite that research being a breeze, there was no long, complicated, or possible analyzed answer. The new question only provided me the old question only provided me with a simple answer that would not lead me to this idea's full potential. Overall, I do think that the results of me changing my driving question a bit did help me in finding specific examples and research. So, what is critical thinking? Well, picture this. A student excitedly jots down ideas, interpreting and solving problems. Every word is specifically chosen to analyze the information. Exposing themselves to art and music has only made it easier to use the concept of critical thinking. Critical thinking, according to criticalthinking.org, a company that promotes education, is defined as a mode of thinking about any subject, content, and problem, in which improves the quality of his or her thinking by analyzing, assessing, and reconstructing it. The effects of it are described as a result the person is able to gather and assess relevant information and use abstract ideas to interpret it effectively. As a result, this person comes to a well-reasoned conclusion and and is able to communicate effectively with others and figure out solutions to complex problems. On a separate article of the same website, it lists critical thinking as an essential life skill. I later researched that art and music provide this skill. As I previously defined critical thinking, I need to talk about what enhances this life skill. Music and art have almost always been incorporated with creativity. While doing my project, I came across an article by the Huffington Post about reactions to different types of music. In this article, Daniel Levitin, a neuroscientist, explained that the field of neuroscience has identified two primary modes of brain operation. He described it as either you're paying attention to something very closely and you're deeply engaged in a task, or you're in a mind-wandering mode, which involves daydreaming and flitting from thought to thought. As Daniel Levitin put it, it's a flood of different thoughts that feel unconnected and loose. The article later stated that is in this mode is where almost all of people's creativity happens, and where people are able to come up with innovative solutions to problems. It was also noted that lead researcher Emma Gray, a clinical psychologist at the British CBT and Counselling Service, found in this case, music with 50 to 80 beats per minute proved the most effective. Beethoven's music for Elise, and contemporary pop like Justin Timberlake's Mirrors included. Daniel Levitin and Glenn Schellenberg, a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, agree that music will have different effects on your brain and behavior depending on how it makes you feel. Furthermore, both advise when dealing with a problem, listen to what you like. On top of that, in a New York Times article called Art Makes You Smart, it was said that kids were selected by lottery to go to the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. Those kids showed stronger critical thinking skills on a random assignment study that determined the strong relationship between arts education and a range of positive outcomes. Each child was given a survey. The surveys included questions about art, tolerance, historical empathy, and interest in visiting art museums. Kids were also asked to write an essay about a piece of art they were unfamiliar with. The assessment program was developed by researchers working at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Not only does this prove that art can enhance critical thinking, but increase interest in art. On one of my later RLA reflections, specifically day 12, I had written most of my storyboard cards and had plenty of resources. Second, I had organized all my notes and resources into my document. I learned about different categories, lots of them involving reflection. After that, I also learned that this would be crucial to my success in this project. I had constantly asked myself questions that ask how will this benefit my research and whether I have a good source or not. I plan on changing the way I see this issue, and I'm going to look at the exact opposite effects of not having art and music incorporated in one's life. I still need to talk about taking action on my note cards as well, continuing my reflections. At this point, I was almost done with finding sources and was scanning them to take notes. I hadn't yet discovered a turning point for me. However, being responsible for what I do had helped me with this project and had made me show adversity. The taking notes was still a priority because I did not have as many note cards as I would like to have. The categories I had on my notes then were miso, change, historical context, reflection, and anecdotes. Looking back at this reflection, I realized I did not look at the opposite effects of having art and music, and I mainly focused on having art and music incorporated in one's life. And I also realized I haven't added many note cards. Throughout this researching and reflection, I learned some very valuable skills. I was taught how to write notes effectively by writing down the source and skimming and scanning. This helped me filter through my information in the least time-consuming way. This helped me with another skill I learned, which was time management. This was a big part of the project, as I had to manage whether I did homework this night or not. As a result, it was easy to fall behind and get off track. Every night I would make sure I knew what I was doing and what my plan was. I unfortunately wouldn't write it down, and that's when I realized I needed to start. Although I didn't make a physical checklist at first, I had a clear idea what I needed to do. After a while, I did eventually learn how to write a checklist. On the last week of try time, Mr. Buxton asked to write a checklist for the week. This helped me manage my time even better. Another skill I learned beforehand was how to write an email and a survey. I was taught that an email should only have 2 questions max, and a survey 5 questions max. I learned about 2 different types of questions as well, open and closed. Open questions mean that it would require the receiver to think about the question and provide an answer with an explanation, but closed questions had a multiple choice or yes or no answers. These skills helped me carry out my project and also helped me succeed. For my final project, I created a poster that encouraged students to join a classic club involving art and music. On the poster, I created a QR code that linked to a website that I created, informing whoever scanned the code about the benefits of art and music and where to go. I've learned about how important art and music is to the future of someone's life. That is why I called SAS students to join activities involving art and music. Through this learning process, I learned that the journey of learning is like a yet to be solved mystery. At first, one starts out almost clueless, lacking information. But as the journey continues, one will find answers and information that helps that person succeed in giving an answer to a pending question. These are my image sources, and these are my sources for my research.